I'm Sophia and this is Sis Crafting. Today I'm back with another fall craft tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a fall felt leaf applique on burlap. For this tutorial you will need an embroidery hoop, any size you like. I like this slightly smaller one, it's a little on the smaller side. Of course you need some burlap to do your applique on. If you have a different fabric that you'd rather do your applique on, then you can do that as well. This is just more like rustic, so it looks cool for fall. You're going to need your felt. For this one I'm going to be using orange. You can use red, orange, yellow, or whatever color you want for your leaf. You need a leaf. I'm not using a template for this. I'm just using this fall leaf that I had. And so this is going to be my pattern. Some thread. You want some pins. And then I have also some needles on there. And scissors. Let's get started. To begin, you're going to want to cut out your fabric. So you want to lay it out. That. Now you're going to take your hoop, because I'm not measuring the fabric. You want to make sure that you create a square that's a little bit bigger than your hoop. You want extra. You don't want to cut right on the hoop. And I would definitely recommend cutting out a square. So let's see here. So then you're going to want to go ahead and cut out a square. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always trim it later. So you can actually make it pretty straight if you're using burlap. It's got all the lines going through it. So you can just pick a line and follow it. Okay, so I would recommend not quite too big. I made this a little bit on the bigger side since I don't know if you can tell here, but this is the end of my burlap. So it's kind of got like a tighter weave and it looks different. So I think I'm going to probably cut that off. But you do not need to make it this big. So now you're going to want to take it and you want to put it inside your hoop. So you want to go ahead and loosen it. Pop out the inside piece. So you want to be left with the piece that has the metal part, and that goes on top. Then you're going to take the other wooden piece and you put it on the bottom. And then you want to try to kind of center it. Doesn't have to be perfect though. So mine looks pretty centered. And then you're just gonna carefully fit the bigger hoop over the smaller one. Alright, so now I've got it on. You want to kind of pull it tight if you can. That way you don't have this kind of warp. Alright, and then once you've got it nice and tight in there, you want to go ahead and tighten your embroidery hoop again. Alright, there we go. Now we are ready to make our leaf. So now we are going to create our leaf. So I'm going to take my orange felt and my leaf. Now I decided I am not going to trace it and then cut it out. You can go ahead and do that if you'd like. I would rather save the step and not worry about trying to find something that I can use to trace it. So I'm just going to pin it and cut it out straight from there. Now we have our leaf all pinned, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Personally, I am not going to cut out all these little tiny ridges that the leaf has. That's going to be much harder for me to sew it down. I'm just going to cut it nice and straight. If you'd like to, you can go ahead and do that as well. So now we have our leaf. You could have also drawn it if you'd like, if you don't have those leaves. So we've got our leaf now. I'm going to add the veins of the leaf. Now when you're adding the veins, I wouldn't sew it on the burlap. I would just sew it on the leaf. We're going to sew the leaf down later. So you want to take your thread. I'd recommend picking a similar color. I picked this orange. It's a little bit brighter so it'll stand out a bit. Hope you can see it. Alright, we got our thread. I'm going to cut out a reasonably long piece. Now, I personally don't like it quite so thick, so I'm going to actually pull it down to 3 strands. So to do this, you just want to go ahead, you got to be careful. So separate it out. You gotta count 3 and 3. If you didn't know this, the thread has 6 strands. This thread, this embroidery floss. So if you split it in half, you get 1, 2, 3, and 3. And then you want to pull slowly. If you pull too quickly, you will get a knot. So you can see it kind of starting to form, but since I'm pulling it very slowly, it can also help if you hold the thread down with something, but it's not totally necessary if you don't have something. Alright, now we have our thread. We're going to get a needle. If you have one, you can use a needle threader. If not, kind of sounds weird, but I would definitely recommend licking it. That way it's a lot easier to thread. There we go. You can also trim it at an angle. If you trim it at an angle, that also helps it because you get the point in and then the rest. That also really helps. So now we're going to add a knot to the end. You don't want to add a knot on both ends, just the long end. And I would recommend adding like at least 2 knots. That way it's nice and not super big, but big enough where it doesn't go through. And then since it's got a little tail, you can cut it. You don't want to cut it too short. You want to leave a tiny little tail. Alright, now I'm going to begin. I'm going to use this sort of as a guide so I can see this vein goes up here and through here. I'm going to fold it in half. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put pins right down the middle, that way I stay straight. I'm going to have to remove this first one. You just want to kind of do your best, taking it up to the back. I'm going to be using a back stitch to make these veins. You can really go ahead and use whatever you like. I'm going to start about here. I'm going to leave a little space between the edge. Come up. And I made my knot big enough, it's not coming out. So then I'm just going to go straight up the middle and then come back and do the rest. You can do it any way you'd like, but I would definitely recommend starting maybe up the middle. That'll make sure you get that nice straight line. So for the back stitch, you want to go ahead. You sew one forward, pull it through, and then you're going to come up a little bit farther out, pull through, and then you want to go back down where you came out from the first stitch. And that gives you a nice line with no gaps. So you want to keep doing that all the way up, not quite to the top, you want to leave a little space. So now I've finished my leaf. Finish the embroidery. So now we are going to attach it to our fabric. So you want to go ahead and make sure you center it, and then you can use some pins to hold it in place. So now my leaf is nice and attached. So we're going to go ahead and sew along the rim of our leaf. That is why it was important not to add too many little ridges and details, because if not, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Now you can do the same stitch, the back stitch. You can do a front stitch. A whip stitch is also a good one. Personally, my favorite is a blanket stitch. Now this stitch is a bit more advanced, so if you're more on the beginner side, I would recommend starting with something easier. So if you do decide to do something a bit more advanced, like the blanket stitch, you can go ahead and follow along with me. Let's move this a little bit. You want to start somewhere where it's not too obvious. You're going to be able to tell maybe a little bit. You can do it flawlessly, but it's kind of hard. So I've gone ahead and put a knot. You want to make sure you got a knot on there. And you're just going to go up through the felt to begin. So you want to go up through that felt. You want to make sure, you want to make it kind of, the smaller, the more delicate it's going to be, but also the less secure it's going to be. So you want to kind of find a happy middle between small and big. Then what you want to do is you're going to go down through the burlap and then come back up. It's a bit difficult. Through where we first started on the felt. So then you want to pull it through, and then this loop, you're going to take your needle and put it through this loop. Okay. I did it kind of double over. You want to make sure you don't get it all tied up like I did. So you're just going to keep doing that all the way around. So this is how it came out. I actually added a bit of stuffing before I finished it. That way it had this kind of elevated look. You can do that if you like, or you don't have to. And you can also either leave the burlap out like this. Obviously you don't have to make it so big. Or you can fold it in, and that gives you a more clean-cut look. So whatever you think. I really hope you enjoyed this video and really hope that you guys do it. If you do, we would absolutely love to see it. You can post it on Instagram and tag us at siscrafting747, and we may post it on our YouTube or Instagram. We really would love to see it. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Bye!